Hey everyone, thanks again for joining me for another crazy episode of Just Josh. I'm your host, and as always, I'm going to take you on a fun-filled adventure around my favorite place in the world, New York City. So today we're going to head downtown to the landmark restaurant Sammy's Romanian. I'm going to also talk to Tom Gray of the super cool indie band Gomez. But first up, I get the privilege and the honor to attend one of the most sought-after events in New York City this summer, the Alexander McQueen Savage Beauty exhibit at the Metropolitan Museum of Art. We're going to start off at their post-Pride event, and then I'm going to talk to the curator of Savage Beauty, Andrew Bolton, who's going to take me on an exclusive tour of the exhibit. So take a look. Hey there, I'm standing outside New York's Metropolitan Museum of Art, arguably one of the most important cultural institutions not only in New York City, but arguably the world. Tonight we're here for the post-Pride event, which centers around the Richard Serra exhibit and the Alexander McQueen exhibit. So let's go inside and check it out.
I'm the Chief Audience Development Officer here at the Metropolitan Museum of Art.
And what exactly does that mean?
What I try and do is to make sure all our communities feel welcomed at our museum. We want to make sure that they think of this place as their second home, and that we have this wonderful institution right here in your backyard.
And tell us a little bit about tonight's event and why it's so important and why it's such a cornerstone to the museum.
This is our 4th year of having our LGBT event here at the museum, and we take pride in making sure that you're feeling like this is it, this is the place to be. And of course we have all the exhibitions and the artwork to tell about everyone's culture, so everyone can find a bit of themselves here at the museum.
You know, we stumbled through the McQueen exhibit, and are you guys overwhelmed at the response to that?
Isn't it amazing? We're just so proud of having that exhibition here. It'll change, I think, the way you look at art and the way you look at design.
It was really after he died, actually. We'd originally planned a trilogy of exhibitions where we looked at 3 designers who'd idealized a female form over a period of time. And then when McQueen died, we decided instead to do a retrospective that focused on his contributions to fashion. So it really was a response to his death. McQueen worked with a very close network of collaborators, and it was really important for the museum to work with them and to tap into their memories and just their ideas about him.
What is it about Alexander McQueen that you said, you know what, this is a perfect blend of fashion and art?
I mean, I think McQueen, more than many designers, I think he was able to look at fashion in a very different way. He saw fashion as a vehicle to express rather complex ideas and concepts. So fashion to McQueen wasn't just about wearability or about pragmatics or functionalism. It really was about instincts and about embedding clothes with emotion and with feeling. People are very responsive to McQueen's clothes because they feel they have this sort of shamanistic sort of association with them.
What about his actual sort of appreciation and understanding of this like female form? Because sometimes it's extremely exaggerated in some of his work.
So he looked to moments in fashion history where the body was so extreme and the body was very contorted in either corsets or bustles or panniers. There are moments that he really enjoyed. He liked the idea of extreme bodily sort of distortion.
Who do you think really were some of the great influences on his work?
McQueen, I think for his tailoring, he looked to people like Saint Laurent and to Adrian, the American designer. And for dressmaking, people like Dior, Balenciaga and Charles James. But McQueen's inspiration came from everywhere. And there's a famous story that part of one collection was actually inspired by a green sweater worn by the character Joey in the sitcom Friends. So his inspiration was everywhere. He was very voracious when it came to both high and low culture.
I do see some of this like Lee Bowery sort of thing in there as well.
Yeah, completely. McQueen, I know, admired Lee hugely, and he loved the punk scene as well, and the skinhead scene. He loved sort of subcultural movements, and I think part of the energy of McQueen's shows and his fashions are sort of trying to tap into the street culture of London.
He's also like really dedicated to Scottish roots as well.
His father was Scottish, and he was very engaged with his Scottish heritage. Often he would look to the darker aspects of Scottish history, like the Jacobite risings or the Highland clearances, very dark moments in Scottish history, so they tended to be the areas that he would look to.
How many people did it take to put this whole thing together?
Well, I think what's been so extraordinary, it was a real teamwork operation where we worked very closely with McQueen's production designers for his runway shows, Sam Gainsbury and Joseph Bennett, on the actual scenography. I spoke an awful lot to Sarah Burton, the current head of the design company, to talk about McQueen's influences and how he worked, and McQueen's first employees. So we worked very close with this great team, and I think that the energy of the show really comes from this collaborative process, I think.
It's on everybody's must-do list this summer. And what do you think it is about the exhibit and his work that is just like drawing people from all over the world?
McQueen had a great following, and I think the circumstances of his death have created this sort of intensity around the actual exhibition. So it's almost become a pilgrimage site for many people. And the fact that the work itself was so extraordinary, I think what McQueen was able to do was marry the technical side of his craft with the conceptual side. So he was a true artist in that respect, and I think people are really appreciating the technical detail, but also his conceptual brilliance.
And what about the sort of collision, if you will, of like fashion and art? I mean, obviously McQueen is a really prime example, but like there are others like that you are actually, you know, very, very instrumental in sort of pushing that sort of movement along.
I think McQueen emerged in the early 90s with the whole Brit art phenomena like Damien Hirst. And they were all artists who very much inspired McQueen, and McQueen collected them too. He had a very big private collection of those contemporary artists. They shared similar themes like death, destruction, and the HIV cause, which became very prominent in the early 90s in England, was something that inspired many artists, particularly McQueen.
Do you feel like this is sort of the beginning of like a whole sort of new appreciation of Alexander McQueen?
People were always aware of his genius, and I think when you see them all those works together, it does take a breath away in terms of his imagination. He had this extraordinary imagination, and he could actually manifest in a way that seemed very modern. So even when you look back to history for inspiration, it still came across as very modern and contemporary. I think very few designers can do that.
You said you're not sure if it goes anywhere else, but what is the next piece for this?
But I think there'll be a show in his hometown to celebrate him as a designer. I think maybe an anniversary or something like that, but I think eventually there'll be another chapter for him.
Congratulations on an extraordinary, one of the most amazing things I've ever seen. It's really inspirational. So
Thank you very
thanks.
much.
How amazing was that? I cannot thank the folks at the Metropolitan, particularly Andrew Bolton, for a really, really spectacular experience. So next up, we head downtown to the Lower East Side, like I said, to one of the landmark restaurants here in New York City, Sammy's Romanian. And I highly recommend putting it on your to-do list because it's a really fun experience. So I sit down with owner David Zimmerman and talk to him about how his family actually won the restaurant in a bet, and what else? Of course, eat. So when people talk about having a quintessential New York experience, they think about Radio City Music Hall, the Empire State Building, the Statue of Liberty. But one of the things I really recommend that you put on your list is famous Sammy's Romanian restaurant down here on the Lower East Side on Christie Street. I'm here with David Zimmerman, who is the owner of Sammy's, and he's going to show us all the traditional things that go into what makes this restaurant so special. So thanks for having us in today.
Thank you.
So why don't you tell us a little bit about how long it's been here and how it came to your family specifically?
The restaurant's been here for about 80 years, 36 years in my family.
Okay.
My father won the restaurant in a poker game in
That's-
1975.
I can't believe he won it in a poker game, that people actually would put this up for grabs in a poker game.
Right.
How does that happen?
Well, that's it. You threw in the keys. My father had 3 queens. It's a family motto, always bet on the ladies.
3 queens.
That's it. And after Sammy lost the restaurant, he worked at Katz's Deli for 20 years as a waiter.
Okay.
My father's actually, his name is Stanley.
Okay.
But I like to say I'm the son of Sammy.
You're the son of Sammy, yes.
Right? And there's no one Romanian.
No one
Speaks Romanian,
right.
so it's Sammy's Romanian Steakhouse. We made it more Jewish style, Ashkenazi way,
Okay.
instead of Eastern European,
Right.
the old-fashioned Romanian way. My dad added egg creams and frozen vodka and a block of ice.
Look at this thing. Look at this. What is this? So what are some of the specialties here at Sammy's?
Of course, when you come, you have your pickles and your roasted peppers. You're going to have to sweat the garlic off.
Okay. I'm all for it. I don't have to worry.
And of course, our famous is chopped liver,
Right.
made with schmaltz. This is chicken fat,
Schmaltz.
100% chicken fat.
I
I
recognize
can't believe
that.
it's not chicken schmaltz.
I recognize that.
And we're gonna mix it today, and we're gonna bring over a bowl,
All right.
and then this is the chopped liver. This is the radish, the chopped raw onions, fried onions, and the cracklings is what we get. We render the chicken fat,
Yep.
and then that is the schmaltz, what's left over in the pot. And that's the cracklings, the chicken skin.
Yep.
It goes in there,
Oh, crackle.
and that's called the grivinus.
The grivinus.
And then chopped liver, chopped chicken livers.
Delicious.
We're gonna put that in there, into the bowl. Take schmaltz, pour that in there, and this is what we do at every table. Everybody orders it at Sammy's. It's a must.
It's kind of like the traditional Caesar salad of Sammy's, if you will.
Exactly. Well, right now, it's a Jewish Benihana.
Very nice.
Thank you.
Good work, David.
Thank you. 5 years of college to learn that. Thank
Well,
you.
you know, just the 5.
Did the extra year to get that flip right, you know. And we mix it all up. This is our Jewish Caesar salad, exactly.
Looks delicious.
Thank you. Thank you. Mix it all together.
Oh, my grandmother and my mother would be so proud.
Yes.
My grandmother was actually Romanian, so.
I'm so sorry to hear that. You can take a piece of bread. I'll take a piece of bread also. And then we smear it. We're going to smear it on a piece of rye bread.
Okay.
We like to smear. And enjoy.
Voila.
Voila.
All right.
Grandparents would be proud.
Good old-fashioned chopped liver. It's amazing. You're also known as a steakhouse, too, so.
We're famous for the Romanian tenderloin. It's a skirt steak. I like to overhang it on the plate. We smear garlic on after we're done cooking it. It's all about smearing.
How about the smearing
All
here?
about smear.
Amazing.
And then you get potato pancakes as a side dish with applesauce or sour cream. We like to use applesauce, okay?
A little lighter choice.
It's a little like, it gives it a sweet candy flavor.
It's also known for, you know, this very specific place. And what is the experience that you are hoping the customers, for their first time, come and sort of take away with them?
When they come in, they say, it's the craziest place in the world. Where are my friends bringing me? But they come and they try to explain Sammy's experience. Is very difficult.
You just have to come and live it, right?
Yeah, it's like a Jewish bar mitzvah setting, and we try to make it a kitschy, cartoonish, good food, good atmosphere, and everybody has to love Sammy's. The idea is to love the place.
What's not to love?
Exactly.
And my parents were born and bred in New York City, my father on the Upper West Side, my mother in Queens, and all I heard of when I was growing up was this egg cream at the candy store. So can you show us how to put this together?
I'm going to show you.
Because this is traditional. I heard you say Fox's You Bet. Again,
Yes.
My mother is quelling somewhere.
Fox's You Bet syrup from Brooklyn, of course. And we're going to
This looks like
Set
my
it up.
refrigerator growing up.
Exactly, right. They used to have the old-fashioned seltzer bottles, and the seltzer man would deliver the seltzer,
Oh,
the
yeah.
case of seltzer,
In
and then the wooden
Wooden
case.
case, yeah, we got
Right?
them.
Yeah, and they used to deliver milk. I used to have it in the glass bottle, and you used to have to rip the top off.
Oh yeah.
I'll make one for you and one for me. And we at Sammy's, we put a little milk in first, okay? Then we do seltzer. We do seltzer all the way to the top, okay? Brings back memories, look at that, right?
Beautiful.
I'm not done yet. I'm gonna keep going. Messy tablecloth. Okay. Of course, Fox's Yerba syrup. About an inch or so. Depending how much you like chocolate. I like this. Drizzle a little on top.
Fantastic.
Uh-huh. Thank you. Now, I like to stir just the bottom, without
Right.
disturbing the head. We try to give it 3 different layers.
Wow. All right.
All right. Try to give the chocolate on the bottom, the white foamy head, and I put the chocolate syrup on top.
I love it.
Thank you. Like that. Okay. This one's for you. Get it like that.
Fantastic.
Okay. And then
Cheers.
L'chaim.
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 Mom, Grandma.
L'chaim. Try to get that milk mustache.
I was going to say, I don't think I have to try very hard.
No.
This is the third time today food has been spread across my face ear to ear. That is amazing. Oh my God. It's a wonder I don't weigh 5,000 pounds from doing this show.
After you leave Sammy's, you might.
Well, I cannot thank you enough for showing us all this stuff. Like I said, what could be better? I can't recommend enough. Come down to Sammy's when you're in New York City. Thank you, David, so much. It was such a pleasure and honor, and thanks for sharing all this with us today.
Thank you, Josh.
Just so you know, I grew up with Fox's U-Bet, a bottle of seltzer, and chopped liver. It was part of my upbringing, so I felt right at home at Sammy's Romanian. Next, I talked to Tom Gray, who's one of the members of the super cool indie band Gomez, and we talk about life and art and music and everything in between, so check it out.
I could be the guy at the end of the street, high on caffeine.
We're honored to have with us today Tom Gray, and thanks so much for coming in and sitting and talking to us.
Not at all, pleasure.
So why don't you tell us a little bit about how the band came together?
4 of us grew up within a square mile of each other in a little town called Southport, which is just north of Liverpool in the north of England. Started writing songs together pretty early on. We used to make little tapes together with our 4-track machines. And then we all went off to university, and Ian met a fella called Ben. He said he came back one day to my place and said, I've recorded this guy's voice, you've got to hear it. And we put on a recording he'd recorded, I forget which song it was definitely a Tim Buckley song. It was completely amazing, and it was like, oh my. And then he joined the band straight away. Probably within 6 months we had a record contract.
Wow.
We'd never played a show. Basically what was our last tape we made essentially became our first album.
And how did you sort of transition from this sort of like essentially a studio band into a live performance band? Were you like...
A lot of nerves.
I was going to say,
and
I would be
anxiety.
freaked out.
Yeah, we used to regularly take turns being sick before we went on stage. It was terrifying. Our first show was in front of 1,000 people in Glasgow. That's not how bands usually start out.
I can't even imagine. 100 people would be enough for me.
Yeah, it was terrifying. But you know, we were kids and it was an adventure. It got me out of politics seminars.
I like that. I should have thought of that. Well, you have a new album that just came out this summer called Whatever's on Your Mind.
Yeah.
I absolutely love it. I was just listening to it in my office, and in fact, one of the songs I love most is the song Options. I thought it's a beautiful song. How would you describe not only your music, but this particular album?
For me, this record's kind of is all about entertainment. It's about melody and very, very strong, short songs. It's a very quick record. It's a very instant record. It's probably the most immediate record we've ever made. I really just wanted to get back to doing something for shits and giggles. We've made very ephemeral music in the past. From time to time, we sort of disappear up our own backsides and over-intellectualize things. Really wanted to make music that was quirkier again and just had a sense of fun about it. That's not to say there aren't big emotional moments on this record. There very definitely are, but for the most part, it's kind of a smorgasbord of musical whims and adventures, and where we disappear down different little avenues to see what happens. For me, the record's a joy. It was a joy to make, and it's a joy to listen to. It feels light. Lyrically, it's very dark, but the way the music feels is very light.
Do you guys get compared to particular bands or singers often, or?
We get all kinds of different things.
I bet.
I don't know if there's anyone we haven't been compared to be honest with you.
Dolly Parton.
Yeah, yeah. We call that the Dolly years, the Dolly period. There's musical things that I connect to. You know, I mean, where I'm coming from musically is essentially like my favorite albums are made by Dr. John and Talking Heads. It's where those two things meet in my head is kind of what Gomez is.
Would you say, like, when you were growing up, that the Talking Heads, that's who you would listen to?
Oh, I was huge Talking Heads fan, and a huge Pixies fan.
Just sort of geographically where you guys came from, do you ever feel like you live under the shadow of these other big British bands?
Well, you know, we're from near Liverpool, so
Yeah.
it's like, have I ever heard of Liverpool? Absolutely, inevitably. But only because, you know, they were damn good at writing songs. That for me is the benchmark, you know. And also, really, in a way, the benchmark for album making is the Beatles as well, you know. You know, Revolver for me is like the perfect record. And that's really the spirit in which Gomez makes music. We try to make records which doesn't feel like it's the same band all the way through. You know it is, of course, and that's the expectation, but it has that sense of experimentation, but where the song is king. I mean, I don't think we would have had that philosophy had we not been from where we're from, you know.
And what are you doing here in the States now?
Well, we came to do a lot of this,
Yeah.
and to do David Letterman and a Jay Leno appearance as well. Amazingly, we went from being the band who'd never played a show to being probably a band who are more known for our live show
Wow.
than we are for our records. Because we kind of turn into a more sort of full-on rocking harmonic unit, and it becomes less about the production, jiggery-pokery on stage, and more about the emotional, you know, impact.
Was there that moment where you guys were like, holy shit, like, we're actually gonna do this?
Yeah, there were a few moments like that. Very early in our career, we won a thing called the Mercury Music Prize, like on our first record, and that's followed us around a bit. But there's been repeated moments like that. I remember meeting David Bowie for the first time. I'm talking to David Bowie. I couldn't really think because it was just too mind-blowing.
And what is the big dream? Like, what would you say? Like, you guys are, you know, obviously wildly successful. Like, but what's like the big dream?
The big dream was just to be able to make music. That was really it. to get away with it. We haven't really got any peers. It kind of feels like we're out by ourselves. What we're doing, nobody else is doing. We don't really sit in the indie world. We don't really sit in the rock world. Certainly don't sit in the pop world. We're kind of a law to ourselves. So it's, as long as we're allowed to tolerate it, you know, and able to keep making these records, then we're kind of happy. I think longevity was always the thing, because we just didn't want to be another one of those bands where you know, there's 2 records and then you're like, oh yeah, that band, yeah, and you know, they're forgotten.
Well, thank you so much for coming in. And before you go, please tell us where we can get the album, the best place to get it.
The best place to get whatever's on your mind. You can buy it directly from the band if you want to. Go to gomeztheband.com and you can buy it from us. That's a pretty great place to do it.
Well, you should go to gomeztheband.com and just check out the website, because there's videos and all sorts of things on the website. So go do it now, and thank you so much for coming in. Well, that's about it for today. So I want to thank my guests, Tom Gray of Gomez, and of course, David Zimmerman down at Sammy's. And a very, very special thanks to everyone at the Metropolitan Museum of Art for making that a really wonderful experience. Now remember, if you want to talk to me or write to me, you can catch me at justjosh@heretv.com. That's justjosh@heretv.com. I'd love to hear from you. So again, until next time, stay gay. Around my vape. Oh, sorry. Do you think I'm gonna do that again? Oh, fuck. It's going so well. Ugh, do I have to rant about something? I do. Where's the next one? Oh, fuck. There's one thing that really drives me insane, particularly during the summer, but also actually during the winter, that we follow the news weathercasts so closely. They are always wrong. Last week I was out on Fire Island and everybody was like, oh, it's gonna rain all weekend, and so nobody showed up, none of my friends wanted to come out, and it was 2 of the most glorious days of the entire summer. I highly, highly recommend never paying attention to any newscast, no weather site, anything about the weather. Just look outside, see what the day is gonna be, and I guarantee you'll have a much better result than listening to anybody tell you what it's gonna be. So there you have it, just saying. Going so well.